Loneliness after 60 often arrives quietly, without warning or drama. It doesn't announce itself as a problem, yet it can slowly change how you think, feel, and live. Understanding why it matters is not about fear, it's about protecting your peace and independence. Loneliness changes how the mind responds in ways that are often misunderstood. It does not arrive loudly, and it rarely announces itself as distress. Instead, it slips into daily life quietly, adjusting how thoughts move and how emotions settle. Many people notice that their minds feel slower to engage, or that focus drifts more easily than before. This is not a sign of decline or weakness. It is the mind responding to a change in emotional environment. Throughout life, the human mind is shaped by interaction. Conversation, shared routines, and even brief exchanges provide mental structure. They help thoughts organize themselves and emotions find balance. When those interactions become less frequent, the mind compensates by turning inward. At first, this inward focus can feel peaceful, even welcome. Over time, however, it can create a sense of mental isolation, where thoughts linger without release and feelings remain undecided. One of the earliest effects of loneliness is subtle emotional flattening. Joy may still appear, but it fades more quickly. Frustration may linger longer than it once did. Small concerns can occupy more mental space simply because there is no one nearby to help place them in perspective. This does not mean emotions are becoming unstable. It means the mind is missing the gentle regulation that comes from shared experience. Loneliness can also influence mental energy. Many seniors describe feeling mentally tired without a clear reason. Days may feel heavier even when little has changed in routine. This fatigue is not always physical. It often reflects the effort required to manage thoughts and emotions alone. Without conversation to ease mental load, the mind works harder to process everyday experiences. Importantly, these changes are not personal failures. They are human responses. The brain evolved in connection with others, not in isolation. When the connection decreases, the brain adapts as best it can. That adaptation may include increased introspection, repetitive thinking, or heightened emotional sensitivity. None of these indicates a loss of strength or resilience. They indicate adjustment. Loneliness can also bring old memories forward more often, without present-day interaction to anchor attention. The mind may revisit past experiences, unresolved moments, or long-held regrets. This can feel unsettling, especially when such memories arrive unexpectedly. Again, this is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the mind filling quiet space with familiar material. Understanding these responses is essential, because it restores dignity to the experience of loneliness. When seniors recognize that changes in mood or focus are natural responses to reduced connection, self-judgment softens. Instead of questioning one's mental strength, it becomes possible to view these changes with curiosity and compassion. This awareness does not remove loneliness, but it changes the relationship to it. Rather than feeling confused or alarmed by subtle mental shifts, seniors can recognize them as signals rather than threats. Signals that emotional nourishment matters. Signals that connection, in some form, still play a role in mental balance. By understanding how loneliness affects the mind, seniors protect themselves from unnecessary worry. They learn to separate natural emotional responses from imagined decline, This clarity is the foundation for emotional steadiness. It allows the mind to be observed rather than feared, and it preserves peace by replacing confusion with understanding. Isolation can quietly distort daily perspective, not by changing reality itself, but by changing how reality is interpreted. When regular interaction fades, the mind loses a steady reference point. Conversations once helped sort thoughts, release tension, and place worries in proportion. Without that shared space, everyday experiences can begin to feel heavier than they truly are. Many seniors notice this shift in small moments. Ordinary decisions may suddenly feel more demanding. Choosing whether to go out, make a phone call, or try something new can require more mental effort than before. This hesitation is often mistaken for a loss of confidence, but it is usually the result of perspective narrowing under isolation. Without external input, the mind becomes more cautious, weighing possibilities more carefully because it no longer receives reassurance through casual exchange. Loneliness can also change how silence is experienced. Quiet moments that once felt restful may begin to feel charged with meaning. A missed call, a delayed reply, or an empty afternoon can take on emotional weight that goes beyond the situation itself. The mind, seeking explanation, may fill these gaps with assumptions. These assumptions often lean towards self-doubt or concern, not because they are accurate, but because isolation reduces opportunities for correction. As perspective narrows, worries can feel more convincing. Thoughts are no longer tested through conversation, where another voice might offer reassurance or an alternative view. Instead, they remain internal, repeating without interruption. Over time, this can make small concerns feel persistent and unresolved. The mind is not becoming pessimistic. It is operating without the balance that shared perspective provides. Isolation can also affect how time is perceived. Days may feel longer, and routines may lose their sense of rhythm. Without the natural markers that social interaction provides, time can seem to stretch unevenly. This can contribute to a feeling of restlessness or mild unease, even when life remains stable. Again, this experience reflects a change in environment, not a flaw in character or capability. Awareness is what prevents this distortion from deepening. Recognizing that isolation can influence interpretation allows space for reflection before reaction. When seniors understand that their perspective may be affected by reduced interaction, they gain the ability to pause. That pause creates emotional breathing room. It allows thoughts to be observed rather than immediately believed. This awareness does not require correcting thoughts or forcing positivity. It simply acknowledges that context matters. Just as dim lighting can alter how a room appears, isolation can alter how situations are perceived. Understanding this helps seniors avoid unnecessary self-criticism. It replaces confusion with clarity and prevents isolation from quietly shaping emotional responses without notice. Maintaining perspective under isolation is not about changing circumstances. It is about recognizing how those circumstances influence perception. When seniors understand this process, they preserve emotional balance. They become less likely to interpret quiet moments as personal failures or signs of decline. Instead, they see them as signals of a need for connection or reflection. By understanding how isolation can distort daily perspective, seniors protect their peace of mind. They learn to separate what is happening from how it feels. This distinction restores confidence and emotional steadiness. It ensures that temporary quiet does not quietly become lasting doubt, and that daily life remains grounded in understanding rather than assumption. Loneliness often hides behind independence, which is why it can remain unnoticed for so long. Many seniors continue to manage their lives with competence and pride. Bills are paid, routines are maintained, and responsibilities are handled without assistance. From the outside, everything appears stable. Yet beneath that stability, a sense of emotional distance can quietly grow. Independence is deeply tied to identity, especially after a lifetime of self-reliance. It represents strength, capability, and dignity. Because of this, loneliness may feel difficult to acknowledge. There can be an unspoken belief that needing connection somehow contradicts being independent. In reality, these two experiences are not opposites. They often exist side by side. A person can be fully capable and still feel unseen. Independence ensures survival and structure, but it does not automatically provide emotional nourishment. Human connection serves a different purpose. It reflects experiences back to us, confirms our presence, and gives shape to our inner world. When that reflection fades, emotional emptiness can appear, even while daily life continues smoothly. This hidden loneliness is common among those who value self-sufficiency. Admitting to it may feel uncomfortable, as though it challenges a lifetime of resilience. Yet loneliness is not a measure of weakness. It is a response to change. Retirement, loss of familiar roles, and shifting social circles can all reduce connection without affecting capability. The heart and mind register that change even when practical life remains intact. Ignoring loneliness, in the name of independence, can quietly undermine well-being. Emotional needs that go unrecognized tend to surface in indirect ways. Irritability may increase, motivation may soften, life may feel less vivid. These changes can be confusing when there is no obvious problem to point to. Recognizing loneliness as a factor brings clarity to these experiences. Acknowledging loneliness does not diminish dignity. In fact, it protects it. When seniors allow themselves to recognize emotional needs, they remain in control of how those needs are addressed. Awareness preserves agency. It prevents loneliness from shaping emotions in the background without consent. Independence is not about isolation. It is about choice. Choosing to recognize loneliness is an act of strength, not surrender. It reflects wisdom gained through experience. It honors the reality that human needs evolve, but they do not disappear. Strength lies not in denying those needs, but in understanding them. Many seniors have adapted to major transitions throughout their lives. Loneliness is another transition, one that deserves the same thoughtful attention as any other change. When independence and emotional awareness coexist, life feels more balanced. Confidence remains intact because it is grounded in honesty rather than avoidance. Understanding that loneliness can hide behind independence removes unnecessary pressure. It allows seniors to maintain pride in their capabilities while also honoring their emotional truth. This balance supports long-term well-being. It ensures that independence remains a source of strength rather than a shield that conceals unmet needs. By recognizing this quiet coexistence, seniors protect both their dignity and their peace of mind. Loneliness no longer needs to hide. It becomes something that can be understood, respected, and gently addressed, without threatening the independence that defines so much of their identity. Social disconnection affects emotional resilience in ways that are often subtle but deeply felt. Emotional resilience is not about avoiding difficulty or remaining strong at all times. It is about the ability to regain balance after stress, disappointment, or uncertainty. Throughout life, human connection quietly supports this process. Conversation, shared presence, and simple acknowledgement help emotions settle and regain proportion. When regular interaction decreases, this stabilizing support weakens. Emotional responses may linger longer than before. A worry may stay unresolved. A feeling of sadness or frustration may take more time to soften. This does not mean resilience has disappeared. It means the emotional system is working with fewer tools. Without the grounding influence of shared experience, recovery becomes slower and more effortful. Many seniors notice this as a sense of emotional fatigue. Stress that once passed quickly may now feel heavier. Small challenges may require more energy to process. This change can be confusing, especially when life circumstances remain largely unchanged. The difference lies not in what is happening, but in how emotions are regulated without regular connection. Social interaction provides emotional calibration. Hearing another perspective can reduce the intensity of worry. Sharing a moment of humor can release tension. Even brief exchanges can remind the mind that experiences are shared, not carried alone. When these interactions fade, emotions remain internal, cycling without external relief. Over time, this can make emotional balance feel less stable. This effect is often mistaken for emotional decline or increased sensitivity. In reality, it reflects reduced emotional reinforcement. Just as physical strength can feel diminished without regular movement, emotional resilience can feel strained without connection. Recognizing this distinction is important because it removes unnecessary fear. It reframes emotional changes as environmental responses rather than personal shortcomings. Emotional resilience is also supported by rhythm. Regular interaction provides natural markers in time, helping days feel structured and meaningful. Without these markers, emotional states can feel less anchored. Days may blur together. Feelings may feel less defined. This lack of emotional grounding can create a sense of unease, even when routines remain intact. Understanding the role of connection in emotional resilience encourages patience. It allows seniors to treat emotional fluctuations with kindness rather than alarm. When feelings take longer to settle, it is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that the emotional system is adapting to reduced input. Awareness restores confidence by explaining what might otherwise feel unsettling. Social disconnection does not erase resilience built over a lifetime. Experience, coping skills, and perspective remain intact. What changes is the context in which they operate. By recognizing this, seniors can maintain trust in their inner strength while acknowledging the value of connection in supporting emotional balance. This understanding also prevents self-blame. Emotional resilience does not fail overnight. It shifts gradually under isolation. Recognizing that shift early allows seniors to protect their emotional well-being without fear or denial. It replaces confusion with clarity and supports steadiness during quieter phases of life. By understanding how social disconnection affects emotional resilience, seniors gain insight rather than anxiety. They learn that emotional balance is supported by connection. and that feeling less grounded is not a personal failing. This awareness preserves emotional dignity and reinforces the ability to adapt with wisdom and calm. Awareness is the first step toward protection, and it is also the most respectful response to loneliness. Loneliness does not demand urgency or alarm. It asks for recognition. When it is noticed early, it loses much of its power to shape thoughts and emotions quietly in the background. Awareness brings loneliness into the light, where it can be understood rather than feared. Recognizing loneliness is not an admission of failure. It is an acknowledgement of reality. Life, after many transitions, naturally includes changes in connection, rhythm, and social presence. Awareness allows seniors to see loneliness as part of that landscape, not as something that defines their worth or strength. This shift in understanding restores a sense of control. What is recognized can be reflected upon. What is reflected upon can be handled with care. Loneliness often becomes harmful only when it goes unnoticed. When ignored, it can quietly influence self-perception, decision-making, and emotional balance. It may lead to unnecessary self-doubt or the belief that something is wrong internally. Awareness interrupts that process. It creates distance between the experience of loneliness and the identity of the person experiencing it. Loneliness becomes something that happens, not something that is. This distinction protects emotional well-being. Seniors who recognize loneliness early are less likely to internalize it as personal inadequacy. Instead, they understand it as a response to change. That understanding preserves dignity and prevents emotional strain from accumulating silently. Over time, it allows emotional needs to be acknowledged without shame or urgency. Awareness also supports clarity. When loneliness is recognized, thoughts become easier to observe rather than automatically believe. Emotional reactions can be viewed with curiosity instead of concern. This clarity helps seniors maintain perspective, even during quieter periods of life. It reinforces the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Protection does not mean eliminating loneliness entirely. It means preventing it from quietly reshaping inner life without consent. Awareness allows seniors to remain grounded in who they are, even as circumstances evolve. It preserves peace of mind by ensuring that emotional shifts are understood rather than misinterpreted. There is also a deep sense of self-respect in awareness. It honors the truth of lived experience. It acknowledges that emotional well-being matters at every stage of life. This respect strengthens independence by ensuring that emotional needs are not dismissed or neglected. Independence rooted in awareness is more stable and enduring. Loneliness after 60 is not a verdict on life's quality or meaning. It is a signal, gently indicating that connection still matters. Awareness transforms that signal into guidance rather than a threat. It allows seniors to move forward with calm understanding, trusting their ability to adapt with wisdom earned through experience. By recognizing loneliness early, seniors protect their clarity, balance, and sense of belonging. Awareness becomes a quiet companion, guiding emotional life with steadiness rather than fear. It ensures that peace and dignity remain intact, even as life continues to change.